Welcome, I'm Karin Glazier, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Ben Wilcox, ProArch CTO of Security and Cloud. Ben, how are you today?
I'm great today, Karin. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to dive into your role and what that new role is all about, what's happening with your team, and what you're trying to achieve as a team, but also, and maybe even more curious about what you think about the current cybersecurity landscape, which, as we all know, is constantly changing, not always for the better either. And it's really putting some companies on edge. So I'm very excited to kind of dive in with you today. So why don't we start with your new role? I know you're not new to ProArch, but you just took on this role as CTO for Security and Cloud. Why don't we dive into the security side a little bit and tell us a little bit about what your role is and what your team's going to be doing in the near future here.
Sure, glad to. So I've been with ProArch for 14 years. I just actually had my 14th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Lots of different roles over those 14 years, but this latest one is the one I'm probably the most excited about. What this means is I'll oversee our technology roadmaps for our customers and our programs related to both security and cloud. ProArch offers a number of managed services around security. We've been operating a managed security service for 7 years now. I've been a part of that team ever since the inception. And so this is kind of that opportunity for me to help make sure that our customers are continuing to have reduced risk, that we're staying ahead of the curve and helping them protect against ever-changing threats, keeping them educated and consulted on kind of the best practices that they should be following on an ongoing basis. So I'm really excited about it. It gives me a lot of things to think about, obviously, with all of the headlines on a daily basis, but there's always a challenge, and I like challenges.
Yes, for sure. Talking about challenges, when you look at the world today and the daily basis we're dealing with cyber threats. I mean, there's not a day that doesn't go by that you log into your computer, you turn on your TV or whatever device you're using, and there's another headline in the news, from breaches with pipelines to road signage to water treatment plants. I mean, it's really getting to a point where nothing is really immune. How do you navigate all that, and what do you see as kind of a way people can steer clear of maybe even becoming that next headline?
Yeah, it's certainly challenging because we deal with customers in lots of different industries and verticals, but the same principles apply to security in general, which is you want to make sure you have the right people, the right processes, and the right technology to help you mitigate those risks. And so whether or not we're talking about the energy sector, and the pipelines, or most recently like the breach with Kaseya and the large ransomware demands for $70 million across approximately 1,500 companies. Those threats are there. So you got to make sure your people are trained and educated, and starting from kind of what we call our foundational security. We call it attack surface reduction as well, as another way to phrase it. You want to bring those surfaces that people are attacking, and minimize those as much as possible. But when some of those things are out of your control too, like the Kaseya, right? That is, you have a trusted partner that you've been working with. That trusted partner uses a product to manage some software or services within your organization. And that service vendor that had that software got breached, and it's a supply chain compromise. So those types of things are a little harder to breach or to kind of keep in check, because it's out of your control. So what can you do in those manners? It's really around being able to respond appropriately, because in all layers of security, there's always going to be a new avenue that someone's going to be able to come in or attack you. And you can put up a great foundation and great security, but eventually some enough money can make their way through, right? A nation state attacking you, they're going to have infinitely amount of resources and dollars to kind of make this breach occur. So those things are reality today, right? Nation states like North Korea, they're looking to collect money as well. So you got to have the technology on the backside. So in the example of Kaseya, one of the things that could have been done there is making sure you understand who's in your network, right? What is happening on it? Are machines acting strangely or doing things that normally wouldn't be occurring? Do you have people that are there to look at your systems 24/7 and respond when something like that happens? So you really got to be proactive. You got to be prepared to respond. And it's not a matter of trying to always prevent. You got to be prepared for that next attack whenever that's happening.
So Ben, you just said something there a moment ago that makes me want to dig in a little deeper. You mentioned people, and when we think about cybersecurity, and you mentioned the people, the technology, the processes, it's not just about technology. I mean, yes, technology and automation of technology is running 24/7 to keep watch of the systems and workflows and data and everything else that a company has that could be breached. But my assumption is you got to have the human element mixed in there too, because they too, if a breach is about to come or is already in process, they too need to jump in, and that's a 24/7 responsibility as well, right?
Oh, it is totally. The responsive side of it, the decisions have to be made. AI is not at that point today where every single decision can be made. Yeah, there's risk that can be determined and actions that can be made from those decisions, but oftentimes that decision of saying are all these different things correlated together, and do we need to take an action today to stop some sort of threat from going beyond where it is at this moment? You need an analyst for that, and that analyst available within minutes of that event occurring, because it's literally from any of the exploits today. They can be basically go from a point of entry to spreading through your network in under 20 minutes. There's threats like that today that are prevalent. So it's mean time to response, as we call it from our SOC. How quickly can you respond to that?
Yeah, this ransomware, I know it's not necessarily a new thing, but it just seems like cyber criminals are finding bigger opportunities to hit home and to take more from a company, which in some cases, taking more in the case of ransom can literally put a business out of business. So what are the kind of mechanisms do you think, what are some of the first things people could be doing or doing right now just to take another look at their security posture and say, okay, are we prepared? Because no one's immune from it. No one's immune from ransom. Some companies can afford $70 million. Other companies, you're talking $700,000 could put them out of business. So what are some of the things companies can do right now to ensure that what they think they have in place is truly strong enough to prevent any kind of security breach?
Yeah, there's probably a few key things. First off is looking from like a security assessment or a security posture check, is call it maybe a lighter version of that. Security assessments are great because they give you kind of like this overview of everything that you got to do in your environment to get it secured to this point. But they are also point in time assessments, so that that punch list that you get off of that, in 6 months from now, maybe has changed a bit, right? As environments are dynamic and so forth. So, it's a good starting point. Our posture checks usually point out like deficiencies of, this is where your greatest risk can be. And, maybe these are some of the remediation pieces that you really need to kind of pick up from there. Having tool sets though to be able to respond. So, and one of the key things that we're seeing a lot of insurance companies asking for today is, they want a endpoint detection and response tool, what they call an EDR tool. And this EDR tool gives an analyst on the back end the ability to do some of those responsive actions. So it feeds a lot of different telemetry pieces into a system, which is then determines when anomalies occur, and when those anomalies occur, and a risk is prone, a analyst can has automatic actions that can occur, or they can make decisions and saying, this is, from what I'm seeing here, this is an indication of a known threat, and we're going to stop it and isolate it, and then work with the customer to then kind of remediate that afterwards. So those are kind of like the two big pieces today of where to get started, and then having some tools to actually do response, because the insurance carriers are seeing the same thing, right? They don't want to pay out that $1.5 million anymore. They've had a
We've
lot
paid
of
out a lot
those.
lately for things. So,
Absolutely. So they don't want to do that, and they're going to put the responsibility back on the business now, right? You want the lower premium, then you need to have some of those tool sets in place.
mhm. Yeah, it is really scary, I guess, if I can use that word, but it is really scary as a business, but also consumers. I mean, it's no longer, hey, social security numbers and credit card numbers. I mean, I know there's still issues with those too, but it's so much bigger than that today. It's even down to our daily survival when you think about it, with pipelines and water treatment and just a whole slew of things. So I could see why companies need to take that hard look. You can't be overly confident, it sounds like, right, Ben, with what you think you have is strong enough to prevent a breach. The reality is those cyber criminals are getting smarter and smarter every day. And if you're not staying up to date, let alone being one step ahead, then you're really behind when you think about it.
You're always behind.
You're always behind, exactly.
It's continuous. I mean, that's the cybersecurity world today, is continuous evolution of your programs, your tools, your methods, and training of your people. Whether that's a security staff, IT staff, or just general office workers or warehouse workers, right? Every single person can be a firewall and stop these types of activities. So it's continuous investment, right? That's kind of one of the things where I see the CTO role is, right? For me, it's going to be evolving that and making sure that our customers are keeping up to date on that. So I'm excited.
Nice, nice. Well, Ben, this has been wonderful chatting with you. I wish you well in your new role. I know I'll be right there helping where I can to support, making sure everybody knows the importance of what you and your team are doing. So keep it up. And definitely next time we chat, I look forward to hearing about all these other great things that you and your team are doing. And in the meantime, I wish you a very secure day today.
Thank you, Karin. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Take care, Ben.
Bye-bye.